You gotta ask yourself, did you come all the way to Japan to experience theme park Japan or the real Japan? What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul. I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan for 20 years. Today I'm going to be talking about the alleged over-tourism problem and basically going to outline how the tourist boom that's happening right now has actually changed and is changing Japan. Let's get right into it. I want to say that there are a lot of these issues that have been covered by media and other YouTubers, etc. I'm going to try to talk about things that have been less covered, and some of them are going to be positive, some of them are going to be not so positive, but I'm going to end today with advice and suggestions for you as a tourist on how you can have the best Japan experience despite these possible over-tourism issues. That goes for you if you're coming from a country abroad, and it also goes for you if you live in Japan and you just want to travel within your own country. So let's start off with the positive. And the first thing I want to say is that there have been genuine revivals of areas in Japan due to the foreign tourists. Now, places like Asakusa or places in Kyoto that have always seen a lot of tourism and a lot of local business value, well, they haven't changed so much except being much more crowded nowadays. But there genuinely are places that were economically depressed, didn't have much going on, that are actually lively now. Perfect example of this is in my hometown in Japan, which is Fujiyoshida Yamanashi, at the foot of Mount Fuji. An area there has seen a complete revival because it's become a popular Mount Fuji photo spot, and what were once empty storefronts, basically the decaying ruins of bubble era economy businesses that are no longer there, have reopened. They've become cafes, they've become shops, there's artists who are opening up studios. It has been a really nice revival. Now, I have to say, if you see me crying, the wind is really cold today, so it's gonna make my eyes water a little bit. So I'm not actually crying. Well, I am crying, but not because I'm sad. Okay. So that's a great thing. Of course, the overall economic boom is really helpful. Like more money coming into Japan, more tourist dollars helping local economies. Of course, that's another great positive as well. And finally, one other benefit I haven't heard anyone talking about, but which I've actually witnessed myself, is the economic opportunities and the opportunities for living in Japan for foreigners. Whether it's on a working holiday visa, or if you want to come here for a longer time and you need places to sponsor your visa, more and more, outside of the tech industry, English teaching industry, the hospitality industry needs people, and they especially want people who speak different languages like English and Chinese, for example. So if you want to get a job in hospitality or have a hospitality job be your way into Japan, the opportunities are growing. I mean, they're already there and growing better and better. Like the Mount Fuji area, again, tons of new hotels. They're hiring lots of foreign staff. I was there over New Year's, and the 7-Eleven that's closest to my in-laws' house, well, I went in there 3 times and never saw a Japanese worker any of those times. They were always workers from like Southeast Asia. Judging from the names, like there was some Nepal or Indian workers. So yeah, those opportunities, economic opportunities for foreigners to live and work in Japan are increasing. So that's a good thing, I think, especially for those of you who are looking for that kind of opportunity. But now let's touch on a few of the negatives. One of the negatives I've experienced personally is, in the past, if you came to Japan, especially from a country far away, like somewhere in Europe or North America, South America, local people were really interested in you. Local people were really keen to talk to you and like ask you where you were from and why you were visiting Japan. And the reason for this is the image at the time, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, was if you took the time for that long flight and the expense at a time when the yen was not so weak, so you're paying a lot of money and spending a lot of time to come all the way to Japan, you must have a genuine interest in Japan and you really wanted to visit. Whereas now, that perception has pretty much disappeared. With the yen being particularly weak, we've got the huge influx of foreign tourists and that sense that locals see you as being interesting or special because you took the time and money to come to Japan. It's not a big deal anymore. It's not expensive anymore, and basically you are a dime a dozen as a tourist now. And so that feeling of being different or being, you know, locals taking interest in you has largely disappeared. But that's going to feed into one of the pieces of my advice that I'm going to give at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Now, this image change has also led to problems with the image of foreigners in Japan. It's become convenient, for example, for officials and governments and like local places to scapegoat foreigners for problems that aren't really the foreigner's issue or the foreigner's fault. For example, there are a couple really good videos out there that I will link in my description that talk about the incompetence and the corruption of the Kyoto city government. Basically outlining how like horrible spending projects and how they were so incompetent with the formation of the train line back in the day. Basically making it so really important infrastructure things for the city weren't handled well in lieu of spending money on other stuff that wasn't really necessary. And through this corruption and incompetence, basically Kyoto's not a very well run city, despite having the huge benefit of crowds of foreign tourists bringing money in. But they have seen that huge crowds of tourists coming in as a great way to shift blame. So it's not our incompetence or our corruption, but there's just too many foreigners on the buses and too many foreigners that are overwhelming the system and shifting the blame. Like, the trash problem is not because our infrastructure isn't prepared for it. It's because there's just too many foreigners and they don't know manners. Now, of course, there are bad mannered foreign tourists. That's definitely a thing, but there is definitely some scapegoating going on, and Kyoto could be run a lot more efficiently. And the media has turned a lot darker about foreign tourists. I actually made a video over a year ago where I talked about what was annoying about the foreign tourists returning to Japan was all of these human interest stories. Like the newscasts would all go out onto the street and like interview foreign tourists and ask them, why are you in Japan and why do you like Japan, or what's the best thing about your trip so far? There were these feel-good stories about how Japan is great and foreigners really love their time when they visit here. And they were kind of saccharine and trite stories at the time, or so I felt. But I would gladly go back to that now, because most of the media is now focusing on tourists behaving badly and doing bad things for social media, or leaving garbage and not following basic manners and things like that. So the media is playing into this image as well, and it's unfortunate because I would say that still the vast majority of foreign tourists are perfectly polite and perfectly following rules and manners. Well, maybe not perfectly, because it's kind of hard to expect foreign tourists to know everything about the manners of Japan, but they're trying their best. And to paint people broadly with this negative brush is really unfair, but the media has definitely taken a turn for that. So now we're going to get into how Japan is actually changing due to the over-tourism, or rather the over-tourism in certain places. Now, first of all, Japanese people are starting to be priced out of certain places. You see, when the demand goes up for certain places in Japan, and hotel rooms and transportation, air tickets and the like sell out, or are sold in much greater numbers. Higher demand, less supply available, prices go up. And while the weak yen is helpful for all the foreign tourists coming here, for those of us living in Japan, Japanese people who are paid in yen, their salary hasn't gone anywhere. The value of their yen has weakened. And so now they're being priced out of places. Like some examples that I've seen on the media are some of the ski resorts where you want to get a nice hotel room so that you're close to the slopes. But with all the people coming from abroad to do the same, the hotels and ryokan inns are just packed, and the prices are astronomical compared to years prior. Food is more expensive. Overhead in these places is increasing in price. And basically, when you travel to the really heavily populated by tourist locations, things are more expensive. And here's where the face of Japan is really changing. Of course, the business revivals and the economic revivals that come with the foreign tourism coming in means that a lot of new businesses are moving in to cater to these foreign tourists, and businesses that were more towards like Japanese locals or even Japanese tourists are disappearing. So the businesses that are popping up and that are taking over these places are really focused on the foreign tourist set. And so they are catering to foreign tourists. And what ends up happening is you're having a less authentic Japanese experience in these places, because you're basically, the example I'll give is around Kawaguchiko Station in Yamanashi. Again, foot of Mount Fuji, tons of foreign tourists. All of the businesses that have opened around that station are frequented only by tourists. Locals do not go there. The food on offer, the souvenirs on offer are very much geared towards foreign tourist tastes. And as such, they're less Japanese in that sense. And you're having less opportunity to interact with local Japanese people because they don't go to those places. And so it's kind of this theme parkification of these tourist areas of Japan. And so your actual Japan experience is less and less authentic and more theme park kind of tourist trappy. Now, it's not to say that these businesses are bad. They want to take advantage of, the chance to make money and have a successful business. Good on them for being entrepreneurs. But you have to realize, if you're going there as a tourist, that what you're seeing in these really heavily touristed places by foreign tourists specifically is becoming less and less the real Japan, which is really unfortunate if you think about it. You came all this way to experience Japan, and now you are instead experiencing a sort of theme park version of it, and I don't think that's particularly fair or as much fun. So this is all to say that for you watching this video, you can take advantage of coming to Japan and having a real Japanese authentic experience just by heeding what I'm talking about today, taking my advice and seeking the spots that are not on everyone's tourist list who's coming here. You want to have a cheaper experience? Don't go to the over-touristed places. Sure, you might think, the yen is cheap, it's cheap anyways, it's okay. But relatively speaking, there are other places you can go that are going to be cheaper. Cheaper food, cheaper souvenirs, and certainly cheaper accommodations. Also, you will have a more authentic experience if you are going to the places where mostly Japanese tourists go, or only a few foreign tourists go. You are going to be back in the real Japan. And sometimes that's not even traveling any place far away. The example I always think of is Asakusa. Basically, if you go to the Sensoji Kaminarimon, that really famous tourist temple there, if you just go a few streets over, you're going to experience the real Asakusa of the locals. And you're not going to see any foreign tourists. They all stay on that one tourist street. And so, it's not like you even have to travel far to get to the authentic Japan. It's just that you need to take the time and effort to do a little bit more. And again, if you do that sort of thing, you're going to run into locals who still have that sense of appreciation and curiosity for why you're there. Like if you travel to Tottori Prefecture or Yamagata Prefecture or Fukui Prefecture, these places that get less foreign tourists, you're going to have genuine encounters and interactions with Japanese people who are going to ask you, oh, why have you come to Fukui? Like, not many foreigners come here. And your experience is going to be that much more authentic, and you're going to walk away from Japan, your Japan experience, with these great, unique memories and experiences that the people who have just gone to, Kiyomizu-dera in Kyoto and Sensoji in Tokyo are not going to have. They're going to have the photos and memories that thousands of other people have had as well. Japan is full of places that are beautiful and interesting to visit. Like Jinmuji, this temple where I am right now. Notice how we haven't seen anyone else, not even Japanese people. Now on a weekend, this is pretty packed with people who are going on the hiking route, which is behind me over here. But if you want to have a real experience of Japan and avoid the theme park, it's actually not that hard to do. And it just takes a little bit more research, maybe a little bit more legwork, but you'll save money, you'll have real authentic experiences, you'll have genuine interactions with local people, and you will help create the image of foreign tourism as a good thing. If you're going to these out-of-the-way places, enjoying them, being courteous, and trying to follow etiquette to the best of your ability, you're going to be appreciated, and you're going to help the image of all of the foreign tourists throughout Japan, because they're going to be Japanese people who are like, we're experiencing really nice foreign tourists, and so what the media is saying or what people are complaining about is not the whole story. So that's my advice. That's what I would say, why you should get off the beaten track of what most foreign tourists do and go out and have those genuine, authentic experiences. So let me know in the comments what kind of recommendations you would make if you traveled around Japan, if there's places that you think people should go who are less traveled by, or which are less traveled by foreign tourists. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts about the points that I've made in the video today. And speaking of authentic, many of you know that I do have a sponsor for the channel, which is Sakura Co, and I specifically partnered with that business rather than other subscription snack services, because what they make and what they curate for their boxes is really genuine Japanese sweets made by local craftspeople. It's not the stuff that you can just get from any supermarket in Japan. And while green tea Kit Kats are nice and fun, it's still the giant Nestle corporation that's making them. So if you want genuine local makers, a curated box of real Japanese sweets and treats, then if you use my code at checkout and the link below, Exjapter, you'll get $5 off your first subscription, and you'll be supporting the channel in that case, and you'll be having a genuine Japan taste experience then, not a theme park experience. Also, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you've gotten this far in the video, what are you doing? That is the best way to help the channel. And if you know anyone who's going to be traveling Japan soon and you think this video will be of use for them, please share. Those are the great ways to help this channel. And I hope to see you on my next video. The next video I'm going to make is actually going to be, I kind of teased this at the end of 2024. We're going to be getting into somewhat controversial or a little bit edgier topic. Next week, I'm going to have a special guest that I'm interviewing for that. So I hope to see you on my next video. I drop videos every single Friday night US time, Saturday morning Japan time. And I do midweek videos from time to time as well, so please subscribe and look for my other content. But thank you so much for watching this particular video, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Peace.